Sweet. Get that going. Cool. Okay. We are live. I think should be. There we go. Yeah, howdy. How are we doing, everybody? Everybody doing okay? Got a few people joining in right now. How are we doing, everybody? Everybody doing all right today or tonight, whatever it might be for you? Whoa, a Dino guy live. Yep, yes, indeed. We are going live today. I'm going to try to make it a little bit more of a consistent thing. Can we start on the topic of Allosaurus? We can start on the topic of Allosaurus. What about Allosaurus should we talk about, I wonder? Any Allosaurus related questions? You know, we have Allosaurus skin impressions, funnily enough. Much like T-Rex, they're like really small scales that are just like would look like they're smooth, much like T-Rex, which I think is really cool. Allosaurus anax. Yeah, we could talk about Allosaurus anax a little bit. I think that Allosaurus anax gets overshadowed by the fact that everybody misses Saurophaganax, but I don't know. As far as we know, it's the largest Allosaurus species to ever exist, which is cool. And plus, there's probably going to be a lot of debate on it. Anyway, Lakota, how we doing, brother? How's it going, man? Thanks for swinging by. I appreciate you. What exactly was the hunt strat? Well, Allosaurus, there's, of course, a lot of differing opinions, and there's a lot of debate and a lot of speculation that goes into the way that Allosaurus would hunt. It was likely mostly a solitary hunter. That's what you always have to assume with most animals nowadays, or back then rather, is that they were solitary hunters, because pack hunting, pack predation is a rare occurrence nowadays, and even more rare in reptiles. So definitely can't assume that pack hunting helped or ever happened. Why can't I speak? If anything, they would go after like relatively easy targets, like most predatory animals do today. That's just the safest thing. I think that Anax's is 3 to 4 tons. I'm not sure. Yeah, I think that might sound proper. I think it was either that or it was like closer to like 5 tons. I'm not too sure. Saurophaganax is my second favorite dinosaur, but now I have to announce it as Allosaurus anax is my second favorite. That's fine. I mean, Allosaurus anax is comparable in size to the way that Saurophaganax was. You know, there's not much of a difference. Saurophaganax, when you really break it down, Saurophaganax was just a large allosaurid that lived in the Morrison Formation. It's still a large. I mean, Allosaurus anax is now just a large allosaurid that lived in the Morrison Formation. There's not too much of a difference. I think a lot of people were just attached to the name because Saurophaganax does translate to the Lord of the Lizard Eaters, which is a pretty cool name. It's a pretty metal name, but I don't know. Things like that don't really bug me too much. New Mario Kart game has dinosaurs in it. I've heard. I'm not big. I'm not too big of a Mario player though, but I might have to check it out. I don't really care about Allosaurus anax. It's when it officially becomes bigger that my man Torvo bigger than my man Torvo that we start having a problem. Yeah, that would be like I mean, not really a problem in my eyes, but hey Billy, what is your favorite baby in prehistoric kingdom? That is a good one. I might have to go. I'm going to exclude Spinosaurus because that's always my default answer. We'll say that my favorite is the I might have to do the Paraceratherium. And that might be because I have like an attachment to walking with beasts. I just really like the way that it looks. Have you heard about the hybrid war on YouTube, and will you make a hybrid? Probably not. I don't get into like hybrids in the Jurassic franchise. Do you think that Prehistoric Kingdom will add Allosaurus anax in the future? I think it's a possibility. I know that Allosaurus has been in the cards for a while, so I assume that if they add Allosaurus, they would add separate species, and they might just add Allosaurus anax is like the larger species. Whereas the Morrison Formation, it is in North America, Western North America. It encompasses around 13 different states, including my home state of Colorado, Wyoming, and a few more states, portions of a few other states. It actually, all of Colorado is in the Morrison Formation, which is why I have such an attachment to it. I quite like the Morrison Formation. I'm gonna make more Dino Guy fan art soon. Hey, that's awesome. You'll have to tag me in that. We got Goji stuff in a Dino Guy stream. I don't know. Oh, you're talking about the war, the hybrid war. What non-dinosaur stuff do you watch on YouTube? I watch a lot of Markiplier. That's what my wife and I watch a lot in our free time on YouTube, specifically whenever he uploads. That's our entertainment on YouTube. If you ever change your name, you should call yourself the Cretaceous Cowboy. The Cretaceous Cowboy. That's a fun one. Who's excited for Dinosaur Volume 2? I am. I'm excited for that. Hybrids are kind of lame, not gonna lie. I'm inclined to agree with you on that one. I'm kind of tired of hybrids in the Jurassic franchise. They're not for everybody, of course. I feel like the Ceratosaurus has been ignored outside of the Jurassic World media. I want to see a paleo-accurate Ceratosaurus. I 100 full-heartedly agree with that. We don't get a lot of Ceratosaurus in general. In fact, I think well, there's been a couple of times that it appeared in documentaries, but not too much of it. Did I ever watch Dino Sapien? I have not yet. That is still on my list. But I've shared a couple images with biology in them. Hello, everybody. My name is Markiplier. Yep, that's part of our household. What do you want the next Prehistoric Kingdom update to be? I would like some Paleozoic creatures like Dimetrodon or Anostransavia. Any of those fellas I think would be really cool to have in the game. What is my favorite pterosaur? That is a tie between a Neurognathus and Hatzegopteryx. Those animals are awesome. They're so different compared to each other that I think it's kind of funny that they're both like my favorite. But yeah, they're cool. Do you think that Brachiosaurus ever stomped, or is it too heavy? It probably wouldn't be able to stand on its hind limbs and then stomp down. I don't think its skeletal structure would allow for that, but it'd probably be able to like stand in place and then stomp, you know. Would you ever make a video about dinosaurs in the Mario universe, both IRL and fictional? There are dinosaurs in the new Mario Kart. Yeah, I've heard. I might. I'm not too sure. I have made a video about like Yoshi, what kind of dinosaur I think he is, but that's probably the extent of it. We know for a fact the Devonian Tiktaalik is coming to the terrarium species. Yes, I'm excited for the terrariums. That opens up like quite a few awesome possibilities that I'm just very excited for. Am I ever going to do a video on fossil Pokemon? If you are, have an informant. I did with my wife a few months ago. We looked at fossil Pokemon. We might do it again sometime because she's working on her channel recently. Did I ever name the Argentinosaurus figure? No. Well, I have a couple names that I've trimmed it down to. I'm not going to choose a name and reveal it until the next Many Interpretations of video, which is going to be hopefully this Sunday if I can stay on track. Did Triceratops eat meat? Sometimes, most likely. Today, animals, in terms of like animal diets, it's not nearly as black and white as you would often think. Like if an herbivore comes across like a bone or small piece of meat, there's a chance that it'll eat it to help supplement its diet. The same was likely true for dinosaurs or like animals of old. Dimetrodon was also confirmed to be coming post EA. Yeah, I've heard about that too. Biology has sent me like quite a huge list. I just don't know when, like specifics about when most of that stuff is going to be coming in. Would T-Rex mob Alamosaurus like how Komodo dragons do today? I'm sure something like that could have happened from time to time. Have I seen the Minecraft movie? No, I have not. We're going to have to wait until it comes out on streaming before we can indulge in it. A dinosaur noob. Thank you for the $3. Thank you for answering. No problem. Of course. I try to keep up, Name it Tiny. That was my suggestion, and I think it's hilarious and fits for the largest dino that we know of. That is a funny name. Fun fact, I don't know how many of you have played Crash Bandicoot, but my favorite character was always Tiny the Tiger. Little fun fact. I have a Funko Pop of Tiny somewhere. I just don't know where it is. Alamosaurus there. Autocorrect is stupid. Yeah, I saw you struggling there for a little bit. It's unfortunate. First Dino guy streaming. Yeah, welcome. Welcome to everybody who's now just joining. Is Allosaurus and Carnotaurus on the list? Ooh. They talked about Carnotaurus at some point, and I know that Allosaurus, I think, is on the list, if I remember correctly. Do you think that dinosaurs had symbiotic relationships in real life? Yeah, I think that there's a good chance that did happen. We just don't really have any evidence for it per se. It's something that's likely. Was Allosaurus a cannibal? I would wager to bet that practically all carnivorous dinosaurs were cannibalistic in some way, shape, or form. Like cannibalism, I mean, it's kind of rare in nature today. Not a lot of animals actively partake in it, and even fewer birds partake in it. But if the situation's correct, and if an animal's starving enough, and it comes across like its buddy that's expired, it'll probably eat that. Are you gonna check out or tell your wife about the Pokemon ecology book? They may go in more detail on the fossil Pokemon. Maybe a video on it. We could possibly, yeah. What dinosaurs do you think would live in Tennessee that are predatory? Makes me so fascinating and curious with the discovery of Appalachiosaurus and from I think Alabama. I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure of too many dinosaurs that lived in that area, or at least not off the top of my head. Do I like history? I'm not as knowledgeable in history as I am with like prehistory, but there are some things that I get really, really into. Why is irritator called irritator? Also, let's not spam, please. Okay. An irritator is called irritator because fossil poachers first acquired the skull of irritator, and in order to sell it for more on the black market, they added things to it to make it look like it was more complete. That way, they could potentially sell it for more. Eventually, the fossils were acquired by paleontologists who had to remove that stuff from the skull, and they described the process as irritating, so they named the genus irritator. Can I ask if it's out of date for Triceratops herds? Because I've been hearing mixed things. I don't think it was ever in date for Triceratops to be portrayed in herds. That was always a speculation thing primarily. There's really not a lot of evidence to support it. If anything, the evidence mostly supports small groups. But group behavior is tricky to identify in fossils. And the reason why that is because there's just a lot of variables that can just screw things up. Like, let's say you find a huge group of Triceratops. They're all buried together. That could imply that they moved in a herd. But what it can also imply is that maybe that was a dried up lake bed and all of the animals were drawn there trying to get some water and they all ended up dying of thirst there. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean that they were a herd, Or sometimes herds will move on and you'll have individuals die. Well, if you find that individual by itself, you might think that was an individual animal that was solitary, when in reality, its herd just left it behind. So herds are tricky. We just don't really have evidence for herds in Triceratops. We have found small groups, like about 5 individuals together. That might be the biggest of a group that you'd get, but it also could have been solitary or it could have been large herds. It's just things like that are tricky. They're just tricky. What are your thoughts on the Stegosaurus? My favorite one is for the Stegosaurs. My favorite one is Miragaia. Miragaia is also my favorite. But Stegosaurs, I've had like a pretty tied-in history with them because Stegosaurus specifically is the state dinosaur, the state fossil for Colorado, which is really cool. If you ask me, I'm glad that Colorado has a state dinosaur. But they're very fascinating ornithine dinosaurs, because like Stegosaurus specifically had these huge plates that of course were really cool. The structure at the end of their tail known as a thagomizer, which are those little spikes at the end of their tail, and even like some throat armor too. They're just really fascinating dinosaurs. How long have you studied paleontology? So I was going to school for geology specifically like a couple years ago, until I ran out of money, and then I couldn't attend anymore. I've been keeping up with the research and the studies ever since then. whenever I can anyway. Have you seen the new sauropod that was discovered? I briefly looked at the article. I haven't had the chance to read it yet. If I were to make a dinosaur movie, what would your dino roster be? Ooh, fantastic question. Let's see. I would want to prioritize some herbivorous animals because they don't really get the spotlight. But since I have it on my mind right now, I would like to have Ceratosaurus in it. I think Ceratosaurus would be a fantastic addition to my own specific dinosaur movie. I would also really like to see an ornithomimid, like let's say Struthiomimus, because that's my wife's favorite dinosaur. We can have like a group of those. I'll add one more. Let's see. Some type of ceratopsian. Let's add Pachyrhinosaurus to it. Those three dinosaurs I'd have in my dinosaur movie. Like, uh, not limited to them, but yeah, those would be cool. Am I married? I am married for 4 years now, or almost 4 years. 4 years this year. Do you think if real dinosaurs meet their Jurassic Park counterparts, would they get along or be iffy with each other because they think that that something seems off? Be like what's the word? It'd be like I can't think of the word because a notification popped up. It'd be like the uncanny valley of dinosaurs. Like a T-Rex would come across like the Jurassic Park T-Rex and be like, oh, something's wrong about this. That'd be kind of funny. That'd be kind of funny to see. Of course, it depends on how social the animal was in life. So maybe some of them would get along better than others. But I'd say that for the most part, they'd view them as different species. Oh, Tua, thank you for the $2. And what are my thoughts on Suchomimus? Oh, I love Suchomimus. It's it's a really cool Spinosaurid that lived in Africa. It's still pretty distinct from Spinosaurus itself, but it's one that we have a pretty good fossil, like a pretty good amount of fossil material on it. Come on, focus camera. This is the PNSO Suchomimus, and it had the typical Spinosaurid traits like the longer snout with straight and conical teeth, huge and powerful arms with 3 fingers on each hand. And what's notable is that they have tall narrow spines down their back, which kind of gave them almost like a little bit of a hump, but quite not nearly as pronounced as like something you would find on Spinosaurus, but they were present. It's a cool dinosaur, and I quite like it. If you could live in any paleontological formation for a week, where would you choose? I would probably choose the Morrison Formation because there's just a lot of sauropods and a lot of theropods in that area. It'd be really cool to see them. Now, of course, that's exactly where I live right now. I just not quite at the right time, but yeah. What are your thoughts on the newly resurrected dire wolves? So I've talked about that quite in depth or as in depth as I possibly could on the live stream Paleopod. So if you want to check that out, you can. But the basic, like my cliff notes, are that of course these are not actual dire wolves. There's a lot more gray area than what Colossal revealed to us. A lot of it was misinformation. There was just a lot of problems with the way that they revealed anything. It was very cool what they did with this genetic technology, but they mostly just kind of like perpetuated a lot of misinformation, and that's something that I certainly did not appreciate. But yeah, I rant about it a little bit more in our podcast, the Paleo Pod, if you want to check that out. Let me catch up a little bit. I think we kind of froze. Oh no, there we go. Thoughts on Balor? It's a very interesting dinosaur, one of my favorites, knowing it could be omnivorous, dromaeosaurid, interesting and unique. Now, what's cool is I don't know if it's actually a dromaeosaurid nowadays. It might have been reclassified. Don't quote me on that, but that's a possibility. But I think that Balor is also a very interesting dinosaur too. It lived on Hatseg Island, and it was found with like basically two sickle claws, what looked like two sickle claws. Initially, when they found it, they classified it as a dromaeosaur, and they thought that it had 2 claws that were perfect for like double the slashing at its prey. Wasn't until like later analysis that they found that was actually something that was more suited for helping them perch themselves in trees. It was better for them to live like more of an arboreal lifestyle. So it's a cool little dinosaur, and I love learning more about it, and I hope we do learn more about it too. Dire wolves aren't wolves, they're jackals. They're not jackals either. They're really just their own kind of little group, like their own little lineage of canids. They are still canines. They're still very much dogs, but yes, you are right. They're not wolves, and they're also not Jackals. They're probably just as related to jackals as they are to to gray wolves, but they're not either of those fellas. They kind of represent an extinct lineage of canids, or at least as far as I know. I haven't. Here's another thing. Colossal has finally released the paper that argues that their closest modern day relatives are the gray wolves, but I haven't had the chance to read it yet. Per my knowledge, per the 2021 paper, they're really not too closely related to most things that exist today. They share pretty much just as much relation to gray wolves as they do to jackals. It's a mess, is what it is. It's all very much a mess. It's quite frustrating. Have I heard of Dinosaur World Mobile? Yes, I have. Do I think that Dinochirus has feathers or not? And I haven't ever played it, of course, but do I think that Dinochirus had feathers or not? I think it's likely that it did. We don't have direct evidence per se, but there is some stuff that suggests it, like the last few tail vertebrae are fused together. That's something that usually indicates that an animal has a tail fan, so I think there's a good chance that Dinochirus did have some types of feathers. Plus, it's an ornithomimosaur. It's very unlikely that it was completely featherless. Did you play any dinosaur mobile games? Name a nostalgic one. For me, that had to be Carnivore's Dinosaur Hunter. I was obsessed with that game. And of course, I played like the Jurassic World, like the Jurassic World game, and I played Jurassic Park Builder a lot when I was younger too. Those games were awesome. Is that the Jurassic Park Brachiosaurus beside you? Yes, it is. This is actually Laura, named by my awesome audience. You guys named her, named after Laura Dern from who played Ellie Sattler. Would Dinochirus act like a hippo in aggression towards predators? I could see that being a real thing. I think that typically herbivorous animals would be a little bit more aggressive than predatory animals because that typically does happen today. Herbivorous animals, when you really boil down to it, are in a constant state of survival because they're typically the ones that are getting hunted. So a lot of times they're a little bit more willing to attack something more so than carnivorous animals are. Like if you spook a zebra, it's probably going to mess you up before it runs. Hey, Dino Guy, I played that one too, especially the Ice Age one. The Ice Age one was fun. It was a little bit harder for me because I think I had to pay to unlock everything else on the Ice Age one, but it was certainly fun. I love those games. What dinosaur would you keep as a pet if they could be domesticated? Usually, I'd lean towards Psittacosaurus. I feel like that'd be the easiest one to domesticate, but I'm sure that its beak would still bite my finger off. What family is Beccles in? It's a debate, but most are leaning towards Carcharodontosauridae. Are you going to live stream Path of Titans at some point? I'm sure I could at some point, yeah. I have done it a couple of times. Which Spino from PNSO would you recommend? So I'd probably recommend the actual Spinosaurus. Mostly biased in that way. What's the difference between Oshalaia and Ichthyovenator? So Oshalaia is a dinosaur that we don't really have much skeletal material of. We don't know what its body looked like, so really that's the biggest difference between them right there, is that we don't know what Oshalaia looks like. Ichthyovenator, we know that it has like this very reduced sail that dips down at its hip and then picks back up at its tail. So we know more about the way that Ichthyovenator looks compared to Oshalaia. But also, Oshalaia might be larger than Ichthyovenator, so we can say that technically. Hey Dino Guy, I hope you're taking all the rest you need for giving us such great content. Oh, I'm trying. I'm trying. I'm trying to. What is your opinion on Rugops? Also, what size do you think it was? Because I haven't researched it in a long time. I can't remember what size it was specifically, but I know that it was a relatively small abelosaurid. So it was certainly smaller than Carnotaurus. Yeah. It was it's a cool dinosaur, though. Not many people know about it. What beasts of the Mesozoic / beasts of the Cenozoic figure would you recommend? I quite like the Dilophosaurus and the Pachyrhinosaurus. I think those ones are incredible figures. What are your thoughts on Archaeopteryx? Archaeopteryx is a cool fella, and it's also a very important fella. It's a dinosaur that we've that kind of re-identified the way that we can view dinosaurs specifically, and it showed that there was a more of a link between birds and dinosaurs than we previously thought. Have you played Ark with Jurassic World Biology and Lakota? I have not. Those two have played together, but I haven't played it. I I don't know. I don't even know if I have it installed, if I'm being honest. If you could make an animation like Dead Sound does, what would it be about? Oh, that's a good question. Honestly, probably like a Cenozoic creature like Thylacus smilus. I don't know why, but I think something like that would be really cool to see in an animated format. Do you think that the unidentified Mongolian Titanosaur was larger than Argentinosaurus? It's hard to say, of course, with as limited fossil material that we have for some things. Is T-Rex overrated? I don't really think that I don't really classify animals as being like overrated. I'll always call them underrated, but never really overrated. That's just, I don't know. I think they're cool no matter what. What are your thoughts on Shantungosaurus? I heard it got downsized. I haven't heard about any downsizing on it. That is a possibility. Let me look into it. I guess I could probably just pull this up on the stream, can't I? I'll probably just do that. There, we can talk about dinosaur stuff while we're here. Yeah. Was Shantungosaurus downsized specifically? That would probably. This is not the best way to look into it. Saurolophus footprints in Mongolia could belong to dinosaur bigger than T-Rex. I'm not seeing January 21st, large bipedal footprints discovered, possible evidence of Mongolian giant Saurolophus. I don't think I'm seeing anything about it being smaller, so it probably was not. I'd say that it's probably still among the largest of the like the largest non-sauropod dinosaur that we know of. It probably still holds that title. Please answer my question, bro. It's been almost 30 minutes. What's your question? I'm sorry if I miss your guys' questions. I don't mean to, of course. Am I excited for Primitive War? Yes, I am. I am very much excited for Primitive War. And I get more and more excited the more that, or like the closer we get and the more that I look into the actual book and everything. Do you think that Maiasaura was too dangerous for a Daspletosaurus to hunt alone? Possibly. Depends on the individual, of course. Please read this comment. Brighten my day. Hey, I hope your day's bright now. What dinosaur in a fantasy world of sorts do you think would be used as a companion or pet? Ooh. I don't know. Whenever I hear that, I always think of like ornithomimids. I have no idea why. So maybe an ornithomimid. I think that'd be kind of funny. Why is Spinosaurus in my profile? That is because Spinosaurus is my favorite dinosaur. I love that animal. What do you think the new Walking with Dinosaurs will be like, and what dinosaur are you most excited to see? So I know that it's going to be taking on more so the format of Ballad of Big Al, which means that you're going to be focusing mostly on specific animals as you follow them over the course of a single episode. So it's going to be a little bit different compared to the actual documentary, but it still is within that Walking with Dinosaurs vein. And I'm very excited to see it. I think it's going to be really cool. What is your opinion on the future Predator from Primeval? I think it's so cool. It always creeped me out. Those skinny creatures that just jump all over walls and stuff, those are always really creepy to me. And because of that, I love it. It's a very, very cool creature design. Hey, Dino Guy, I want to know if Dakota Raptor is still valid or not. I can't find it anywhere. I was wondering if you knew. I do not know, unfortunately. I have heard some things at the museum that I used to volunteer at, but I don't have any confirmation myself, unfortunately. I think that some papers still need to come out, to actually clarify anything that we might have. But as far as I know, I think that you are absolutely correct, and Dakota Raptor still doesn't really have much on it. Could still be a chimera. It's still valid right now. If the Wikipedia page pops up, then yes, it's still valid. That means it's just debated. That's actually a pretty interesting rule of thumb because the paleontology stuff on Wikipedia is actually pretty good at keeping up with everything. Like, take for example, if I type in, at least this used to work, so it would be embarrassing if it didn't right now. If I typed in Saurophaganax, the Wikipedia page, oh, that's embarrassing. Oh no, it tells me it's a dubious chimeric genus. So it does tell you when it's been classified as mostly invalid. I know that if you type in Geostembergia, whoops, just misspelled that, but if you type in Geostembergia, it'll take you to Pteranodon sternbergi. So, and my face is in the way though. See, it'll take you to Pteranodon sternbergi. So sometimes it'll work, sometimes it'll not. It'll tell you when it's invalid. Currently, it looks like Dakota Raptor is still valid, but it's a debated topic, and there's a good chance that it's not. That's just something to keep in mind. How do you know so much about dinosaurs? I read all the time. I read all the time, and I watch a lot of scientific communicators. And yeah, this is my life. This is what I do. It's not my full-time job, but I still do it. What are your thoughts on the freshwater plesiosaur from the Kem Formation? What is the most recent size estimation for Suchomimus? I'm not too sure about the Suchomimus one. It was big, I know that much. Not as big as Spinosaurus. So I'd say maybe closer to 5 to 6 tons, possibly. Maybe a little bit smaller, maybe a little bit larger. And I don't know too much about the plesiosaur that you're talking about, but I have heard about it. And I just think that's cool. You know, that introduces a lot of really interesting ideas about what kind of animals would interact with it. Like, I think I've seen some art of Spinosaurids, like trying to attack it, which I think is really cool. I need to go somewhere at 6:30, so I may miss half the stream. That's fine. The stream will be back up if you want to, check back in, I suppose. Are you just dinosaur Google right now? Am I dinosaur Google right now? I am on Google right now. Hey, that's my video. Why is my video here? That's funny. Huh. It's my video about Saurophaganax. Okay. That's interesting. Are you at all interested in purchasing any of the Jurassic World Rebirth Lego sets? A Lego Spinosaurus would look sick on your shelf. I agree. I want the Spinosaurus big fig, but I don't want the rest of the set. That's my problem. That's my problem. I just want the figure. So I might try to just buy the figure from eBay or something. I don't know. We'll see. I just don't want the whole set. Was Saurophaganax canceled? Saurophaganax is currently dubious. Saurophaganax has been redefined as mostly a sauropod, but the theropod is another species of Allosaurus, known as Allosaurus anax. It's over 100 because of the playset. Yeah, see, that's my problem. I don't really care about the rest of the playset. I just want the Spinosaurus. So I don't know. That's my biggest problem with the Jurassic World figures, is that they're Jurassic World and Jurassic Park. Mostly with Jurassic World, what most of the people care about are the dinosaurs. I think there's a lot of people who do like the sets, but most of the sets are just like Jeeps and things like that. It's like, I'm fine. I just want the figure. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. I want the figure. I do. I do believe the most invalid genus still come up on Wikipedia, but we'll tell you that that's invalid. Yeah, that's what I just discovered right here. I just don't understand why it's not really consistent, because I search up Geostembergia and they directed me to the Pteranodon page, but then I searched up Saurophaganax and I expected them to direct me to the Allosaurus anax page, but they didn't. They do tell me. They say, hey, it is a dubious chimeric genus of large Saurischean dinosaur, possibly a sauropod from the late Cretaceous, the Morrison Formation of Oklahoma, United States. And it tells me down here, it was historically considered to represent a species of Allosaurus. Well, currently it is a species of Allosaurus. That is interesting. For the most part, Wikipedia does a decent job at that. Well, Wikipedia is not too bad when it comes to dinosaur information, and that's mostly because of all this down here. They do cite sources, and then you can, if you're willing to look into it, I can follow these sources, and I can actually go towards different places that offer me what I think is overall better information than the actual Wikipedia page. That's where I do some of my research, not all of it, but some of it. I don't know why we're talking about Wikipedia now. I believe you missed that Tyrannosaurus had a completely different, complete remodel in the new Prehistoric Kingdom update. It finally looks proportionally different from Parasaurolophus. Yeah, I just made another video about Prehistoric Kingdom, and I looked at it a little bit more there. I didn't know that. That's pretty cool, though, and I do quite like the redesign. Do you think that Seats is a Tyrannosaur or an Allosaur? Unfortunately, I don't know too much about Seats. Let me look at it. I assume, since you're asking me that, it's probably a debated topic. Oh, I remember this guy. I remember looking at the debate a little bit, but I never actually followed up on it. It's currently classified within Megaraptora, which means it's a Megaraptorid. Okay, so it's neither of those. It's not a Tyrannosaurid nor a Allosaurid. It is a Megaraptorid. That's interesting. I think I vaguely remember people talking about this, though. Have you watched all the Ecos Labrea tutorials on YouTube? I've watched a few. Of course, I haven't played Ecos Labrea. I'm waiting for more content release before I make any more content on that. You might be able to just get the Lego Spino on Bricklink. Oh, that's right. There's a site that exists that allows me to just get individual things. I forgot. You're right. Yeah, that's probably what I'm going to do then. Because I just don't want the rest of the set. I'm sorry. That's not really what I'm wanting. I just want a Spinosaurus to put on the shelf. What was my favorite dinosaur movie? Easily Jurassic Park. Have you got the Kulusukas Collect A figure? It's so derpy. No, but I have to see it now. Whoops, misspelled Kulusukas. Ooh, look at that though. What is this? It actually kind of looks good. It's got that rounded face that's like really flat. Kulusukas was just kind of like a derpy animal. It's this giant amphibian. For those of you who don't know, you could probably tell it looks very much like a salamander here. And I kind of like that though. I kind of like that. That's really fun. Looks like if you stepped on a salamander. Yeah, that's a good description right there. If Mosasaur fought the Meg, who would win? Well, I think that Megalodon might be heavier. I could be wrong, but I think it is. So I usually give it to the weight. Whoever wins in weight. What's the difference between crocodile and crocodilomorph? All crocodiles are crocodilomorphs, but not all crocodilomorphs are crocodiles. Crocodile gets a little bit more specific, whereas crocodilomorph is a lot more broad. It's a broad description for a lot of different animals, all of which are related to crocodiles. But then when you get a little bit more specific in your boxes, you get closer to crocodile, and that's what crocodile is. Did you find out that Dinosuchus is no longer a true crocodilian? Is that the new paper that I heard about? Because if that's the case, that's crazy. I'm going to have to recontact. I keep misspelling things. I keep fat fingering it. There's a new paper, isn't there? Expanded phylogeny elucidates Dinosuchus relationships, crocodilian osmoregulation, and body size evolution. I don't think this is it per se. This was released 2 years ago. Dinosuchus is now down here. Does that qualify it? Oh! You're right. This new phylogenetic tree says that it's no longer a crocodilian. Oh my gosh. So what? Does that... That would mean it wouldn't be a new crocodile... Okay, it wouldn't be an alligatoroid anymore, would it? That's weird. I mean, of course, Wikipedia is not going to catch up with that, but really, I'm going to have to read this a little bit more. Of course, I don't have time to read it right now, but we have the new phylogenetic tree. And for those of you who don't really know, the way that phylogenetic trees work is like you have it based off of ancestry. As you can see right here, Deinosuchus schwimmeri and Deinosuchus riograndensis, which are two species, are localized right here on this portion of the tree, which means that they would have branched away from the rest of Crocodilia, which are all over here. Crocodilia over here includes all of the true crocodilians, as they're calling it, the crown group here. That includes crocodiles, alligators, and caimans, all of the three that we have today. That is interesting. I'm gonna have to read more into that. I haven't heard about that. Thank you for letting me know. that's that's probably gonna be a rabbit hole for me tonight. I'm gonna have to read more into that. Did Dinotherium have a tapir-like trunk like in Walking with Beasts or a normal trunk? I see both depictions. I think it was more so a kind of reduced trunk. I don't think it was quite like the tapir thing. What are your thoughts on Maiasaura? I love Maiasaura. I love hadrosaurs in general. And Maiasaura, it's one that helped us recontextualize the way that we view dinosaurs and parenting, because for the longest time, it was thought that practically all dinosaurs were cold-blooded parents that just abandoned their young at the earliest possible opportunity. Maiasaura, it was found in a huge nesting group. There was a lot of Maiasaura nests found all over the place, and there were Maiasaura fossils present with those nests, which showed that they took care of their eggs. But what's notable is that there were young Maiasaura that were already grown a little bit, which implies that they were sticking around the nest for a while before being left, which means that they didn't abandon them. So that showed that at least some dinosaurs would care for their young. Doesn't say that all of them would, like sauropods are notoriously the biggest example of dinosaurs that would abandon their young, but at the very least, some of them would. So Maiasaura is pretty important for our understanding of some dinosaur behaviors. Do you think there's some type of dinosaur that impaled other living creatures to storage for later, like that butcher bird? It's a possibility. If you can witness something like that in behaviors of modern day dinosaurs, there is a possibility that it happened in the past too. It's just we don't have any evidence for it. Could you explain why Pliosaurus is called Predator X? I don't know why, honestly. I'd assume that was like just a name given before it was officially identified, because it wasn't called Pliosaurus, I don't think, at the time. But I never actually knew why, and I never actually dived into why. Do you like Telmatosaurus? It's a rather unique hadrosaur since it was quite small compared to others. I don't know if I've ever heard of it. Let's find out if I like it. Definitely not a very well-known hadrosaur because, oh, look at that. It showed up in Prehistoric Planet. Were these fellas on Hatseg Island? Yes, they were. Okay. Which means that they probably, since they were small, as you mentioned, that means they probably went under insular dwarfism, which is a phenomenon where like specific groups of animals are isolated to an island, and as a result, they over time adapt for island life. Sometimes that can be island gigantism. Sometimes they can get to be bigger than their mainland counterparts. Komodo dragons are actually a good example of that. Or they can become smaller than their mainland counterparts. In the case of Telmatosaurus here, it seems like it went with the latter. It became smaller. Here's a size chart. Became smaller than their mainland counterparts, because typically hadrosaurs are pretty big. There's some really big hadrosaurs out there. This is not a big hadrosaur. So it seems like it's a pretty good example of insular dwarfism, which I think is a really fun phenomenon. Hatseg Island is probably the best example of that phenomenon happening. I remember these dudes from Prehistoric Planet. Yeah, I think they had just like a brief appearance. They didn't spend too much time on Hatseg Island in the first season. So I think we briefly saw them, which looks like we have some footage here too. Yeah, I think they were just walking in the background mostly. That's interesting. Even though they seem to mostly just be like a remodeled Edmontosaurus, but I think judging from the available fossil material that we have, that's probably a fair thing to do. Allosaurus versus Carcharodontosaurus. That name is hard to type. Carcharodontosaurus was larger than Allosaurus, and so I always give it to whoever was heavier. So I'd say that Carcharodontosaurus would win. Am I interested at all in Jurassic World Rebirth? The Quetzalcoatlus is kind of a downgrade from Jurassic World Dominion's version, but what are your thoughts? I'm cautiously optimistic. There are some things that I'm not too crazy about, like the D-Rex, but I will definitely be seeing it, and I will probably see it twice so I can make sure I make some decent content. But I'm there's a lot of things I think look pretty good about it. What's my favorite time period? Probably the Cretaceous, if I'm being honest. There's a lot of really fascinating creatures in general that just lived in the Cretaceous period. So I think I lean more towards that. Have I heard that Irritator may have had a pelican-like mouth? Yes, I actually talked about that. I can't remember if I uploaded it as a YouTube short, but on my TikTok I talked about that. I think it's really cool. That was a discovery that was made, I think, 2 years ago. And it's fascinating. Have I heard of Grapposaurus? Yes, I have. That is another really cool hadrosaur that I love. I mostly just love hadrosaurs in general, but hot take. Torvosaurus was one of the biggest underdogs of the Jurassic, outcompeted by Allosaurus in apex niche and outmatched as in the scavenger niche by Ceratosaurus. Possibly. I don't know what niche Torvosaurus specifically filled. I mean, obviously, it would go after relatively large prey compared to something like Ceratosaurus. Ceratosaurus most likely was not a scavenger, though. I'll tell you that. You'll be hard pressed to find any modern day or like any scavengers that are that big. Like that is something that is incredibly unlikely because it's incredibly costly in terms of energy to be a scavenger because you have to constantly be moving to find your next meal. So if you're as big as like a Ceratosaurus or another large theropod, that could be detrimental for you. So you'd be better off just like hunting because on top of that, if you're a like if you're trying to look for food to eat that's already dead, you'd have to hope that there's like enough to eat there. Can you tell me what niche it filled? Fauna and habitat. North America specifically is what we're looking for. And they're mostly telling me what it. See, this is coexistence with other large theropods. 3, possibly 4 species appear to have different ecological niches based on anatomy and location of fossils. Torvosaurus and Ceratosaurus may have preferred to be active around waterways and had lower, more sinuous bodies that would have given them an advantage in forest and underbrush terrains. Whereas Allosaurus, okay, so it seems that they likely spent most of their time, both Ceratosaurus and Torvosaurus might have spent most of their time near the waterways. I don't know if that implies they think that they ate mostly aquatic animals. I think that's kind of unlikely, but I guess it is a possibility. Interesting. There was just so many large theropods in the Morrison. Speaking of Hatseg Island, or in islandery dwarfism, another great example is polluted Titan. Do you like or know another about polluted Titan? I don't know about that sauropod specifically. I do know about Magyarosaurus, which is another sauropod that lived in that area that underwent insular dwarfism. Let me check out. I assume it's another one that, of course, went through insular dwarfism. It's pretty small. I don't think it's definitely not as small as Magyarosaurus, but it is a small fella. We do see it in Prehistoric Planet 2. I think I do remember that. Yeah, no, this is pretty small for a sauropod dinosaur. I believe this fella is it's probably a Titanosaurian, isn't it? Yes, it is. Oh, I will be right back, everybody. I apologize. I need to go and check on something. Okay, I apologize about that, everybody. Okay, where are we at now? I'm all out of breath too. Spinosaurus gets nerfed. Spinal fans again. Spinosaurus is not nerfed. It was an animal. So Troodon is a valid genus. Currently, no. Currently, Troodon is not a valid genus. It is currently what we know as a nomen dubium. Thoughts on Pycnonemosaurus? It's been debated if it's the largest abelosaurid with its weight estimate of 3.6 tons. I do not care if it's the largest. I will forever love it. Pycnonemosaurus is a tricky one. It is known from extremely fragmentary remains, and it's always difficult to, try to extrapolate anything from that. So it's always a tricky one for me. Have you heard about the feathered pteranodons that were made for the Lost World but were never used? I have not heard about that, actually. That's completely news to me. What are your thoughts on Helicoprion and its weird jaw, as it had two different types? Yeah, no, it's a weird one. I haven't researched enough about it, but I just know it's a weird animal. Stygimoloch or juvenile Pachy? What are your thoughts? I think it's pretty likely that it is a different growth stage of Pachycephalosaurus. How do you stay up to date today in paleontology? Most of the time I'm like on Science Daily, and I try to keep up with all of the newest papers through that. Do we have any fossil evidence of Tyrannosaurus Rex that Tyrannosaurus Rex actually hunted Ankylosaurus? If so, how often did this happen? What was the success rate of such a hunt? We don't have any evidence of it specifically. Of course, that doesn't mean that it never happened. In the millions of years that those animals existed, it likely did. But there's like no bite marks on Ankylosaurus. So that probably implies that it wasn't too frequent of an occurrence, but it probably would happen sometimes. What are your thoughts on Dracorex being added in Jurassic World Evolution 2, despite it being dubious? I'm fine with it because then I could pretend that it's a young Pachycephalosaurus. So I think that's pretty cool. What is your opinion on speculative evolution projects? I think they're really cool. I just, I'm not good at them myself. So I just think that they're really cool or really cool to follow. I don't know why I said funny. Is there any dinosaur that is venomous and or poisonous? We don't have any evidence of that. There is a poisonous bird that exists today, but no venomous birds exist today. There might have been some venomous dinosaurs, but we don't really know of it. Have you heard about the Scrap JP3 ending in which the Spinosaurus gets jumped by the raptors? Yes, and I actually saw that they kind of recreated it in Jurassic World Evolution 2. Spinosaurus was supposed to die in that film, which would have been crazy. Do you watch any other Dino tubers? I watch a lot of them. Yeah, I watch, like the Gaming Beaver. I watch Best in Slot. You guys know Best in Slot, is a very cool dude. And of course, some scientific communicators like Benji Thomas and whatnot. What is the biggest mosasaur, and what's your favorite type? So the biggest mosasaurus would have to be Mosasaurus hoffmanni. It was about 45 feet in length, I think, roughly. Have you heard about the unidentified Spinosaurid from Japan? What do you think of it? I've heard of it, but I certainly don't know enough about it right now. Can you and your friends play as humans in the Isle? I'm not even sure if I know how to play as humans in the Isle. There's probably specific servers. Maybe. I know that Lakota doesn't play the Isle, and I don't think Biology does either, so that'd be kind of difficult. How's the Paleoart video coming up? Is it looking good? It is looking pretty good. It's just difficult because I have it like divided into a few different categories, and I'm like choosing 5 winners for each category. And it's difficult because everybody did some amazing stuff, in that a lot of people did some amazing art. Give Sinornithosaurus credit as a venomous dinosaur. It is actually not a venomous dinosaur. It was once thought to be venomous, but closer analysis found that it wasn't. What is one of my favorite sauropods? A couple of my favorites would be Alamosaurus and Argentinosaurus. If Dodo came back, would you have it as a pet? Yeah. Absolutely. Whoa, what did I do? What did I do? There we go. There we go. Okay. Have you heard of Charles R. Knight? He's a major paleo artist. Yes, I think that most of us would probably be familiar with Charles R. Knight's work. It really made up like the bulk of most of those like older depictions of dinosaurs and really kind of set the standard for a lot of different people. My favorite sauropod is Dreadnoughtus. That's a good choice. Dreadnoughtus is a cool one. We have quite a few fossil material of it, which is always really good. Or quite a bit of fossil material. What's the sauropod behind me? So that would be my Argentinosaurus done by Halangood, which is a fantastic figure producer people. I guess. What is the current shortest dinosaur name? Probably Yi. That's like in terms of the generic name. That would have to be. Oh, that didn't work. So I have to put the species name alongside it. This fella right here. I don't know if it's the shortest, but it's the first one that comes to mind. It's called Ishi. It's a cool little dinosaur. Actually had like membrane wings. Have I ever tried doing paleo art myself? Yes, a couple of times. I don't practice it nearly enough to be considered good, though. But I like doing it. It's a lot of fun. Did Argentinosaurus or other similar-sized sauropods have spikes? There's a good chance that Argentinosaurus and other titanosaurs did have osteoderms, which are the bones that grow in their skin, so it is a possibility. Pachyrhinosaurus is sometimes depicted to have woolly feathers or quills in some paleo art. I think they look awesome, but I'm confused on where the idea came from. What are your thoughts on this? A lot of people speculatively put it on them because they lived in a cooler environment. It is unlikely that they had feathers, or at least feathers to that extent. But it's mostly like a speculative thing. Mostly creative. What's your opinion on Dinosuchus size limit? I mean, the biggest of the biggest. I don't even remember what the size limit would be for Dinosuchus. I don't know if I've ever actually read about that. I don't know why we're frozen too. There we go. I don't know why it does that, man. It's probably a computer problem. My favorite stegosaurid currently is Miragaia, but it might be synonymous with another Stegosaurus that I can't remember, or Stegosaurid. What are my thoughts on the DX disease from the Lost World? I don't know if I have any thoughts on that. It kind of felt like another thing for Michael Crichton to say, "Hey, I'm done with this," because in the first book he bombed the island, right, so that all the dinosaurs could be dead, and then Steven Spielberg was like, "Hey, we need a sequel. You need to do something for a sequel." So then in that movie or in that book, he was like, "You know what? There's gonna be a disease, and all the dinosaurs are dying anyway." So that's what it feels like to me. I don't know if that was actually the intention. That's just what it feels like. What are your opinions on Megalodon and Evolution 2? I quite like it. I think it's pretty cool. I don't really have any huge criticisms about it. I'm confused with Columbian mammoth and Paleoloxodon pneumaticus. Could you please explain? I believe that their tusks are different. Paleoloxodon is known as a straight-tusked elephant. And that's because its tusks were overall a lot more straight compared to the Columbian mammoth, which of course had curved tusks. That's a lot more typical for elephants. Also Paleoloxodon. Paleoloxodon, quite notoriously, the genus has like the smallest species of elephant to ever live and the largest species. It's crazy because the smallest species, I can't even remember the species. name. I can't even spell. Just let that do it for me. The smaller, like this is Paleoloxodon pneumaticus, of course. It's huge. This is potentially the largest land mammal to ever exist, known from, decently sparse remains. But there was also a species of Paleoloxodon that I can't remember the species name of it though. Oh, there was this species right here that went through, again, insular dwarfism. And so, as a result, it is one of the smallest species of elephants to ever exist. Huge contrast from this little fella down here and this one up here, which I think is funny. I just think it's really funny. Look how cool these guys are, though. These Proboscidae, the family of proboscids. He's just a baby? Yeah, isn't it? So small. Did you notice that Paleoloxodon appears in primal? Was that Paleoloxodon or was that... I feel like that was a Columbian mammoth. I can't remember. I can't spell. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was a Columbian mammoth. At least it's listed as that. And it certainly has the shape of a Columbian mammoth. It's shrink wrapped, which is weird. I hardly ever see mammals be shrink wrapped. Look at that head. Let's see all the creatures. All the creatures that appeared in this show. Creature scale. Where's the Inostransavia? The Inostransavia is not on here. It's kind of unfortunate. Those are big animals, though. Ancon, thank you for the $5 and thank you for the great content. I appreciate it. Thank you for the support. I really do appreciate that. The Scutosaurus in Primeval is way too big. Was Scutosaurus in Primeval? I can't remember. Is it on here and I just missed it? I don't see it. Okay. Yeah, I don't remember the Scutosaurus being in Primeval. Holy moly. That is a design. I have never seen anyone get Scutosaurus wrong. I have never seen anyone get Scutosaurus wrong until now. That is huge, too. Huh. That's interesting. Compy, please see. What, you want me to talk about Compsognathus? You said primal, not primeval. Oh, you mean for the Paleoloxodon? Because, yeah, okay. See, that's my fault. I get those two mixed up, but now we're on a primeval go through. But yeah, I think Paleoloxodon was in primal. They were in that whole huge battle scene. But Compsognathus is a cool little dude. It could have had feathers. I don't know why that's where my mind goes to initially, but it's related to dinosaurs that had feathers, of course. And of course, it was a small little fella, and it's quite distinct from Procompsognathus that lived in the Triassic, whereas it lived in the Jurassic. Looking at Scutosaurus, are we? Yeah, I'm kind of... It makes sense that we see Scutosaurus because, of course, we do see Inostransavia. But what's getting me is that I've never seen a Scutosaurus look this incorrect before. Most of the time when I see Scutosaurus appear in media, it looks good. Even the Hammond collection Scutosaurus looks it looks good. It looks a lot like a Scutosaurus. Not perfect, of course, but it looks a lot closer. The toys, of course, that release look pretty good. The Scutosaurus that appears in Life on Our Planet looks really good. The Scutosaurus that appears in Walking with Beasts, I don't know if we can see that anywhere. Yeah, the one that appears, or Walking with Monsters, it looks pretty good. Primeval really took the cake and saying they took it and they said, let's get this wrong. And that's just kind of funny to me. Do you believe that the lack of pterosaur diversity at the end of the Maastrichtian was due to a lack of fossils? So I know that with a lot of dinosaurs, there seems like there's a lack of diversity, and I think a lot of that is because there was a little bit more of a preservation bias. You don't find as many dinosaur fossils towards the end. of the dinosaur period, and that's not necessarily something that's stating that they were already on decline. It's just showing that there probably wasn't enough environment to help preserve the fossils in a good way. So that is a possibility for pterosaurs, but I think that even they were more so on a decline compared to the birds. Does Minmi count as an ankylosaurid since it had no club tail? That's actually a good question. I'm not too sure. Let's learn together. Well, I mean, I don't think a club tail is what makes an ankylosaur. I think there are ankylosaurids that lack a club tail, but I'm not too sure where Minmi falls within the I have to put the species name too. I'm not too sure where Minmi falls within the family. Whoopsies. Minmi is... They're not telling me a specific family. So I assume it's not an ankylosaurid. It's an ankylosaurian, which means it's within the same clade, but it's probably not an ankylosaurid. I don't necessarily know if it's the lack of a club that dictates that, though. What are your thoughts on the mare creature from Primeval? I don't know what the mare creature is. Let me see. I'd probably just put mare and then... Oh, okay, that's kind of what I thought it was. These are fictional, I bet, aren't they? It is a... we're aquatic primates from the future that resemble sea-like apes. They're creepy. That is creepy. Ugh. I need to rewatch the show. I used to watch it. There was like a free playlist on YouTube back when I was in middle school, and that was like the only way that I watched this show. That is creepy, though. I need to find a way to actually like watch it nowadays in its entirety. What are my thoughts on Megalania? Megalania used to scare me when I was younger, mostly because of Monsters Resurrected. And in some way, it probably still would scare me today because it is a pretty terrifying varanid. This huge, huge lizard that could reach upwards of like 15 to maybe 20 feet in length. It's quite terrifying and possibly had some venom like modern-day Komodo dragons. Path of Titans just released a Suchomimus TLC, did they? I hope it's good. I hope it's good. Let me check YouTube. Did they reveal it on their... I'm just not good at typing, I've established. I'm on incognito too. I don't know if I have to be, but... That's definitely Suchomimus TLC right there, right? Or 4 minutes ago. Wow, they just released it. Yeah, we'll learn about it together, I suppose. Yeah, it did have that model TLC. I remember that happening.
The Suchomimus TLC is bursting into action. This large semi-aquatic carnivore has now been completely updated with new animations and a brand new set of abilities. Suchomimus now has weather-dependent combat strategies, enhancing its effectiveness in different environments.
That's interesting. So it's like if you're in like a rainstorm, are you gonna like have a leg up on a T-Rex or something? It's like, I would fight it, but it's not raining right now. I'm not as strong as I could be. That'd be kind of funny. No new model? No, I think that, as someone mentioned before, I think that they already went through like the whole model update months ago, maybe even a year ago by this point. So we'll see. Am I 3 dinosaurs in disguise? Who told you?
Specialize in land combat with the introduction of Shark Bite, a bite attack that inflicts medium damage and makes opponents bleed more with Sucho's embedded conical teeth. Bitten enemies will experience reduced bleed healing for each tooth lodged into their hide. Suchomimus will regrow its teeth over time, but they replenish even faster if dry. The shed teeth ability accelerates tooth regeneration twice as fast, so make sure to equip this handy sense ability alongside it. With the introduction of an updated claw attack, Suchomimus can now apply a powerful bleed to its enemies. This ability is particularly excellent for dry conditions, as hitting targets which are also dry has an added benefit of doing additional...
That's interesting. That's all interesting. That shark tooth or that shark bite thing is certainly interesting. But this question caught my eye. Why isn't Microceratops called Microceratops? I think the name Microceratops was taken by a bug or like by a type of beetle. And in taxonomic culture, a lot of times when a name's been taken already, you can't have that name for another creature. So it had to be renamed to Microceratus, which is, I don't know if it rolls off the tongue better, but it's certainly interesting.
Additional damage.
Does anyone even play as what's it even called? The ichthyosaur. I can't remember what it's called. Something rhinus. It was a wasp. That's right. The wasp already there was a type of wasp that already had the name Microceratops. The same thing actually happened to Saurophaganax back when it was Saurophaganax. They were going to give it the name Saurophagus, but that name was taken by something too, and it was like a bug or a wasp or a Urinosaurus. That's right. But yeah, no, the same thing happened to us. So they were going to call it Saurophagus, then they changed it to Saurophaganax eventually. Yeah, Urinosaurus is what I was talking about. It's been forever since I played as it. It's kind of unfortunate.
Mimus is preferring
Urinosaurus is actually really fascinating because it has that really long upper snout.
aquatic combat. The new waterlogged hide ability now allows it to benefit from increased swimming speed while drying out slower once on land. Additionally, with this ability, Suchomimus can now drain the stamina of creatures latched or clamped onto it by up to twice the standard rate based on its own wetness amount. Suchomimus can boost its damage against targets by splashing them with backhand, a directional claw attack that deals...
You're gonna just... If someone comes up to me in Path of Titans as a Suchomimus and they start splashing water on me... that starts affecting me negatively, I'm gonna have a cow. A directional claw attack that can splash water at targets within 25 meters. That's funny. That is funny. I love that. That's like really funny.
It's low damage, but also deals a knockback. If used while swimming, this front limb ability will splash all targets based on camera direction.
Don't have a cow. Don't have a cow, man. It's just water. It's like, stop, man. You're making a bigger deal out of this. It's just water.
Hoping to boost damage even further against their waterlogged targets can make use of Water Spout. With this ability, it can spray water all around to make both itself and nearby enemies wet. The Bite Attack Riptide is a new ability that allows Sucho to do chunks of boosted damage against its targets. This Bite Attack increases in power with each hit and can deal even more damage when Sucho or its opponents are wet. And watch out for its faster cooldown when Sucho is wet too. Suchomimus can also now boost its water mobility using 3 new abilities. Muffled Roar increases swim speed, swim turning, and increases all status effect healing. Combine that with Strong Lungs to give Suchomimus maximum aquatic superiority with an increased stamina recovery rate and increased maximum oxygen levels while swimming.
There's a lot of words.
Less time spent coming up for air, more time spent clawing its opponents. And finally, Suchomimus can use Lunge in order to dodge any incoming damage while swimming to evade would-be attackers. Hope you enjoyed this glimpse into Sucho's new abilities, and we look forward to hearing your feedback.
I love that, actually. I'm kind of happy with that. Dinosaurs has backhand too. It's funny. Okay, so what? This is kind of like, I guess they're making it so that Dinosaurs and Suchomimus are kind of like their counterparts for each other, I guess for balancing reasons. I don't know. I like that. That's really funny. I quite like that. I think that's funny. Is this a new update for Path of Titans? Yes, it appears it is. The TLC for Suchomimus has just been released, I suppose. That's so funny. It's really funny. I like that. Sucho should be worried now, and Spino. Yeah, appears like it. I don't even remember what Suchomimus would do beforehand. Or Sarko should be worried. My bad. I'm misreading things. Do you really think we can bring dinosaurs back? I mean, it's kind of crazy if they do look like Jurassic Park and Jurassic World. Not in that sense. What they are working on doing right now is modifying the traits of a chicken, and they're making what's going to be called Chickenosaurus. It's not going to be a traditional non-avian dinosaur. What it's going to be is a chicken with traits that look like a non-avian dinosaur. That is probably as close as we'll get to a non-avian dinosaur. I'm confused. Was bear dog actually a bear or dog? And is it true it came across with Daeodon? I think it did coexist with Daeodon, if I'm not mistaken. And it's neither a bear nor a dog. It just has traits that are very similar to both bears and dogs. And I think it is related to both of them. Bears and dogs are pretty related to each other, of course. Saurophagonax is called Allosaurus anax, I've heard. Yeah, it is now. Like the Allosaurid fossils that were attributed to Saurophagonax are now Allosaurus fossils until someone else, comes in and says, hey, no. What Pathotyne servers do you play on? I usually play on Aurania number 3. That's like my favorite one to play on. Thoughts on Zool, the Destroyer of Shins, a very unknown ankylosaurid that has a name based off of Ghostbusters monsters, which I find really funny. Zool, I think, is an ankylosaurid that has been found with evidence of damaged osteoderms that were caused by another Zool, which means that kind of shows that they use their tail clubs mostly for intraspecific combat, which I think is very funny. Can we see the Sukos do backhand splashes again? Yeah, we can. Of course.
Suchomimus can boost its damage against targets by splashing them with backhand, a directional claw attack that deals low damage but also deals a knockback.
That's just so funny to me, man. They just pop out and like, we're gonna splash you, and they just start splashing it. The way they pop out has me dead. Yeah, me too. Me too. That's my new favorite thing. I quite like that. Yeah, the Stegosaurus got ganged up on you. Moto. Oh, I love it. T-Rex versus Spino, who do you think would win realistically in that battle? There is a lot of variables that come to something like that. Of course, more times than not, T-Rex would likely win given its adaptations, but there are some instances where Spinosaurus would probably win too, because, they're all animals. Given the significant number of large herbivorous dinosaurs found in Australia and Russia, do you think there is a possibility that both regions had carnivorous megatheropods that filled the apex niches? Probably. I'd say probably. Especially if they have the proper food for it, then most likely. What speculative Mesozoic species do you think is most likely to have existed, or something like that? Oh, I don't know. I'm bad at speculative things, like speculative evolution or just trying to guess things. I'm bad about that. I'm looking at Suko's baby model. I think they changed it a little. It's so funny. Its eyes are so close to the top of its head. Really, kind of like a hippo or a crocodilian. Have you heard of Temeriraptor, the new giant dinosaur species discovered in Egypt? And thoughts? Yes, I have. It's interesting. It's a carcharodontosaurid, and it seems to have some sort of nasal structure. We don't know exactly what the nasal structure looked like, but it seems to have existed, which I think is really cool. Plus, it was identified from old photos of what were thought to be Carcharodontosaurus fossils, but now we know that they seem to be distinct enough. Thoughts on Incisivosaurus? I like to call it the Toothosaurus due to its teeth. It looks so goofy. I love it. Yeah, it's got like buck teeth. It's funny. And my best introduction to Incisivosaurus was from Prehistoric Planet, and I love them. I think they're really fascinating creatures as well. You think that the Suchomimus model was tweaked a little bit? I don't really remember what the old model looked like, so I can't offer any insight on that. It might be a little bit different. It kind of feels like those tall neurospines are a little bit more pronounced. That might be the case. I'm not too sure, though. It's interesting that it has like a bunch of water abilities now. It's like we got a water type A water type Suchomimus over here. Nigel Marvin carried my childhood. Me too. Me too. A texture update. That could be it. That could be it. I haven't stared at the old model long enough, so I'm not too sure what it used to look like. So I'm not too sure. Who would win, Carcharodontosaurus or Spinosaurus? A lot of variables for that. You know, depends on how old the Spinosaurus is, depends on how old the Carcharodontosaurus is, it depends on how healthy either one was. Sometimes Spinosaurus would win, sometimes Carcharodontosaurus would win. Spinosaurus is overall probably larger than Carcharodontosaurus. That probably does give it a little bit more of an edge. A little bit more of an edge. You don't like the Sucho model very much? I could probably see why. I'm not too sure if I like it. Let's see. I don't remember what I even said for it during the many interpretations of. It's just been a while since that came out. It's a nice concavinator design.
Suchomimus is hoping to boost damage even further against their waterlogged targets, can make use of Water Spout. With this,
it's not a terrible design. It's pretty good. I don't know. I kind of like it. Imagine another Nigel Marvin Back in Time series, but with young cast as new generation. That'd be kind of cool. I wouldn't mind seeing something like that. Have you heard of the unique, the two-clawed dinosaur discovered, Duonicus? Yes, and it is a Therizainosaurid. It's notable for being the first Therizainosaurid to be found with 2 claws instead of 3, which is fun. It also kind of like helps recontextualize a way that we view dinosaurs like that. Shows some of the variation. Were birds as diverse now as they were in the late Cretaceous? As far as we can tell, they are even more diverse now. I mean, of course, we have over 10,000 species identified, and there's way more that need to be identified of the past, but there's a lot of variation in terms of birds. Wait, what? A new Therizainosaurid? Yeah, it's known as Duonicus. Here, let me, since we're all hanging out, let me pull up a picture of Duonicus. It's a relatively recent description for the animal. I think it was just last month when we saw, or when they revealed it to us. Here's the skeleton. Here's everything that we have. And it's actually pretty complete. It was way more complete than I initially assumed. Like, we got some of the hip, of course. We have some vertebrae over here. We got some dorsal vertebrae. And what's really cool is that the hands are complete. And because they're complete, we can see that it has a reduced third digit right here. But it also has, like, huge, the other 2 digits are, of course, huge. Which means it had 2 claws on each hand. Which is why it was given the name Duonicus, which translates to 2-claw. I love Gabriel Gueto's paleo art of it. I don't remember if I saw Gabriel Gueto's paleo art of it. No, maybe I did. Let's check it out. Yeah, I did see that. Okay. No, it is very nice art, but it's a very cool dinosaur as well. Like, look at that. Of course, like, the head and everything is speculative, but it's based off of other Therizainosaurs, but you can't even see the head because my face is blocking it. Hold on. Let me get my face out of the way. There. That is the head. New. There we go. Yeah, no, this is Duonicus. 2 claws. It's a very cool recent discovery. What niches do birds fill now that pterosaurs and dinosaurs used to fill? There's a lot of different niches that would get filled by like a bunch of mammals nowadays too. But one of those for pterosaurs would be a lot of the niches of like going after insects and smaller animals as well. He's definitely one of my favorite paleo artists. I agree. He is definitely up there, like alongside Mark Whitten and Mario Lanzis and El Reptiliano. There's like a lot of really awesome paleo artists out there. Did the head crest of Spinosaurus have any practical use? Most likely not. It was most likely a display structure. Yeah, yeah, don't forget RJ Palmer. I agree with that one too. RJ Palmer has some incredible, incredible work as well. I heard that crying in the background. Yeah, that would be my daughter, of course. She's not too good at going like taking naps. And am I frozen? Is this frozen? No, there we go. There we go. Cool. Could Pachyrhinosaurus hold up against a Tarbosaurus or an Albertosaurus? Sure, I'm sure given the correct circumstances it could. Would a Nomalocaris make a good pet? I'd feel like it'd be high maintenance because you probably need like a whole aquarium for it. But maybe if you were rich enough, I'm sure. I'm interested of why sauropodomorphs look the way that they are. They looked like that because that was typical for Archosaurs to look like that. Like let's say if we look at Plateosaurus, which is like the quintessential basal sauropodomorph, dinosaurs were typically like this during the Triassic. They were bipedal. They kind of had thinner proportions overall. The basal sauropodomorphs specifically have like a relatively long neck and a decently short, like a proportionally small head. Animals like Archosaurs were typically bipedal during that point in time. So that was just a common occurrence. It wasn't until later when they started to adapt to become a lot like more quadrupedal. And there was a transitional period. Like I think Ardonyx is believed to be one of those transitional sauropodomorphs because it was able to switch between bipedal and quadrupedal locomotion until eventually they became a lot more quadrupedal. Do you think that we could find a wide mouth Spinosaurid or Spinosauroid similar to a gator? I'm sure that is a possibility. I'm sure it's a possibility. I don't know. Do you like Ferrocutus? Ferrocutus was the King Kong ceratopsian, wasn't it? Pretty sure it was. Yeah, got King Kong stuff. I think it's cool. It's like a mixture of a lot of different ceratopsians. I included it in my many interpretations of Pachyrhinosaurus video because it reminds me of Pachyrhinosaurus due to the way that this frill looks, and of course it has a little bit of a nasal boss like in the middle of these spikes right here. It's interesting. I quite like it. Do you think that we will ever discover a theropod specimen exceeding or meeting 13 tons? Again, that is a possibility, and given the equations that were done in that Tyrannosaurus study, it certainly is a possibility that they could reach those heights. It's difficult to say with the fossil material that we have. I think that some Tyrannosaurus specimens are thought to reach that big. Like I think that Goliath is somewhere around that. From what we know. But it is very important to note that Goliath is only known from a single femur. Have I read the Lost World book? I can't read. Have you read the Lost World book? I can't read. Have you read the Lost World book from 1912? No, I have not. I have it somewhere, but I haven't done that. Isn't Goliath like 12? I think 12 is currently where like the most realistic estimates are placing it. There are some who are arguing for 13 to 14, and there's some crazy people who are saying 15, but I don't think 15 is really too realistic. It's up in the air. It's difficult to say with such limited fossil material. Also, let's not spam people. Come on. Can't spam. Like, I'm sorry if I don't see your message or your thing, but you know. What do you think would win in a fight, a Pachycephalosaurus or a cow? Maybe a Pachycephalosaurus. Thoughts on Gremlin? Gremlin's cool. I want to pull up a picture of Gremlin because it's like this. It's this little ceratopsian that they gave the genus name of Gremlin. And I think that's amazing. Let me show. Like, there's some cool paleo art out there. Let me show you guys for those of you who don't know. Look at this. There's some amazing art. They even give it like kind of the same coloration that Gremlins have, which I think is really funny. Get my face out of the way. I love it. I love when they give them generic names like that. Like we have Thanos, We got Gremlin, of course. I just think that those are fun. What's your opinion on Siamosaurus? I don't know. I know that it's very. I know that currently in the phylogenetic tree, it's shown as being the closest relative to Spinosaurus. So it is a possibility that it was Spinosaurus, but it's just always difficult to say with such limited fossil material. Do you like Simosuchuses or Gremlins more? I think I like Simosuchus more, honestly. I love Simosuchus so much. It's like my favorite Notosuchian, but Gremlin is still amazing. I don't even know how many fossils we have of Gremlin. Do we have a photo of the available fossil material of the holotype? Probably not. Fortunately, it's one of those not very well known dinosaurs. Oh, look at that photo. Let's see. Fossilized frontal bone of Gremlin slobodorum was found in sediments of Oldman Formation in Alberta, Canada. Doesn't look like we really have much of it, unfortunately. Enough to diagnose it as a ceratopsian, though. He looks like he would act like a gremlin, too. Yeah, definitely. Especially in this photo. He's like plotting. Word birds, the most diverse dinosaur group, not too broad, of the Cretaceous. Sounds silly, but I think but think about if they were diverse. I think birds of the Cretaceous were decently diverse. I don't know if they were quite as diverse as they are now per se, but they were still pretty diverse. What is your favorite pterosaur? My favorite pterosaur is different. I have two favorite ones. I don't know why I said that. I got distracted by Gremlin here. I have two favorites. It's either a Neurognathus or Hatzegopteryx. One day he'll make a new version of the many interpretations of. Then we can have the many interpretations of the many interpretations of. Indeed, indeed. Enough to diagnose it as a ceratopsian. Now I'm dead. I want to be diagnosed as a ceratopsian. Don't we all? Especially if we look like Gremlin here. If I were to be diagnosed as a ceratopsian, I'd want it to be as Gremlin. Isn't Siamosaurus only known from teeth, or is that one specimen from Concrot also attributed to the genus? I'm not too sure. A lot of Spinosaurids are identified from teeth, and it gets difficult to identify things, and that's why talking about Spinosaurids can sometimes be frustrating. Like Oxalaia, the Spinosaurid from Brazil, only known from like 2 pieces of its snout, and everybody talks about it like we know decent enough, but there's like a lot of uncertainty. Gremlin superiority. Look at it. What do you think about Brachytrachelopan? That I'm glad you mentioned that. It is my favorite dicraeosaurid. Dicraeosaurids are funny because they're sauropods, and what's funny about that is that sauropods are mainly known about their long necks, but then you look at dicraeosaurids like Brachytrachelopan, and it's just I don't know why I'm not showing you guys. I should be showing you guys because it's awesome. But it was a short-necked. I don't even know how to spell. And I keep pressing the wrong keys. Thank you for it. But it's a sauropod. It's a dicraeosauropod that looks like this. It has a significantly reduced neck, and it's amazing. It's just flat out amazing. It likely filled a niche that's similar to some hadrosaurs going after foliage that was a little bit closer to the ground, which is in stark contrast to other sauropods that, of course, went for foliage that was more so in the trees. And it's amazing. And it's a diplodocoid, which means it's in the, I believe, the superfamily, the same superfamily as Diplodocus and Apatosaurus, which are really well known for having long necks. So there's like a lot of funny things about it. It's a meatball with a tail. Yeah, look at it. Oh man. Yeah, dicraeosaurids, like I said, they're most likely, they're most notably identified as being relatively small. I mean, as you can see from this chart right here, it is still big, but small for a sauropod. With also having relatively short necks. That's awesome. Your opinion on Nigersaurus? Nigersaurus like makes me frustrated because it's really a fascinating dinosaur, but everybody likes to just make jokes about it because it was named after the place in which it was found, that being Niger. Um, and everybody just makes fun of it because of the way that it's spelled, even though I don't know, it's frustrating. There's a reason why I haven't talked about it because of how some people are um, going to talk about it. The jokes are funny. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's like a little bit different for me because I am a dinosaur content creator. So it's like a lot of the videos that I post, you see a lot of the same comments. Like you see a lot of the same Spinosaurus got nerfed comments, or the whole Google the dinosaur with 500 teeth. It gets old. It gets really old. I mean, to be honest, the Nigersaurus one was never funny. If you ask me, it was never funny. It was more so something that's just like highlighting something that doesn't need to be highlighted in a way that it didn't need to be highlighted. It's a name that's named after a specific country or a specific place. It is not a racist name. It's not a name that needs to be looked at in that way. And it's frustrating because it's such a fascinating dinosaur because it has such a weird looking face that I think is fascinating. And I've wanted to talk about it, but I never talked about it because I know how some people will comment about it. Especially if I had to type that into the captions and whatnot. I just know how people will react. And I just think that's unfortunate. I just really think that's unfortunate because it's really a fascinating dinosaur. People use it as an excuse to get into saying that word. I hope not. I really hope not. I want a Toxodon for a pet. That'd be kind of cool. That'd be kind of cool, honestly. At least for where I'm from. That's unfortunate. I don't know if I mean, there are some people out there that are like that. And the fact that I don't know, when it comes to paleontology jokes, there's a lot of jokes that just get told way too often. And it gets old, especially when there were jokes that were just never funny from the get-go. Did I freeze? Did my thing freeze? No. Okay. I don't know why it does that. Like it stops way too high and then I have to adjust everything. I want a baby Edmontosaurus as a pet. That'd be cool. It'd grow to be huge, then that'd be a really bad thing. Lots of kids at my school say Nigersaurus' name in that offensive way. They say it is their favorite dinosaur. Yeah. Honestly, I could believe that. I do remember being in school. I want Nishi for a pet. That's a fantastic choice. No, it's really unfortunate. It's really unfortunate because, again, I think the Nigersaurus is a really fascinating dinosaur. I gotta go soon, please. What were you asking, Connor? Then what was the most diverse dino group of the late Cretaceous? Not very broad, like theropod or lithopods or something as broad as those. I don't know about the most broad or the most diverse per se. I know that there was ornithischians and dinosaurs, I know you told me not to say that, but ornithischian dinosaurs were pretty diverse overall. Like you had a lot of ceratopsians and a lot of hadrosaurs towards the end of the Cretaceous. So maybe I would count those. Have I seen the Amber Mines videos on YouTube? I've seen people talk about them. That's about it, though. Was Pyrosaurus bigger than Deinosuchus? That's always a debated topic. Maybe. It might have been. I want a Jurassic Park movie that's 3+ hours long and is just the novel with no changes, and it should be rated R. I think it'd need to be long. I can't speak. It would probably need to be longer than 3 hours if they're going to adapt the novel like without changing anything. Why are paleo fans so obsessed with making the fight? I don't know. What is my least favorite dinosaur? That would be the seagull. And I just realized that I am over time right now, so I'm going to have to go ahead and end the stream right here. I do want to say I appreciate everybody coming in and talking for a little bit. It was a lot of fun. So we'll go ahead and there we go. Okay, yeah, so we'll go ahead and see y'all later. And yeah, have an awesome one.